Hey guys, Wrestling Throwdown here. I'm Haley and I'm here with Joe for the first time in like a week? Joe, I've missed you. I feel like we haven't done a show together in forever.
The Dice Man since our preview to Night of Champions. So the
Oh
Dice
yeah, yeah,
Man,
we have done, yeah. So it's still I feel like it's been too long.
there's been a lot of shows, TNA, and of course the action show to Night of Champions with you and Chris Sterling, Duo Dreamer. Did a great job with. Big shout out to Duo Dreamer coming out and helping out with the show. Greatly appreciate that. You did awesome, my man. But no, it's good to see. My seat was kept warm by some great talent in my absence. But it is great to be back, baby.
It's great to have you. All right, well, guys, Raw was actually definitely better than last week. Definitely way better than last week. It seemed like they knew what they were doing this week. They actually had a plan, and they went with it. Even though, Brock Lesnar or Paul Heyman were not there tonight, and Roman Reigns obviously out with an injury. So they did have quite a big few stars, not there. But they did overall a very good job with, the storyline telling with the whole Dean, Seth, and John Cena thing was very good, and they actually knew what they were doing this time, so I was actually happy about it. But yeah, I'd say I was actually happy with it for once in the past like month. It's been bad, but yeah, it's been very good to the last night. What about you, Joe? What do you think?
Vast improvement. I felt like 3 out of the last 4 Raws, with the exception of the cage match with Bray Wyatt and Jericho, that Raw, were just absolutely pitiful throwaway Raws. It got me to the point where I was getting so angry about them that I was going to consider stop watching them and just base my reactions based on the crew page or wherever. I mean, wherever I'd get my news from. So I'm glad. It's amazing. Dean Ambrose definitely, I felt brought some energy that had been lacking as of late. So that was really good, and definitely good twists and turns, good storytelling. They did the best that they could with the pieces on the chessboard. Although there was a few head-scratching moments besides that. But
No.
what else is
Nothing's perfect. All right, so Dean starts off. So he's obviously back. He returned last night, as I told you guys. Me and Chris, did a show last night, and we talked about Dean Ambrose returning, which I knew he would be. I said this last week, last Raw show, that he would be back. And he pretty much just talks and says that he's not dead and he's far from it, and he's ready to, beat the crap out of Seth for what he did to him, and he, about the cinder blocks and everything. And so he gets all, antsy, he throws the throws the mic down, and then throws a chair in the ring, and he just sits down, and he's just waiting and everything. He gets up a few times and then sits back down again. He's getting kind of anxious. And then, of course, John Cena comes out. And Dean obviously does not look happy. And John Cena says, "Oh, we have a similarity. We both wanna, beat up Seth Rollins for what he did. He tried to destroy you. Well, he took away my title shot." And Dean told him to not get in his way and to back off, and that this was his business, and John Cena needed to go away. And he said, "Don't get on my bad side. Don't give me a reason not to like you, John Cena."
it?
And the Authority eventually came out. And Triple H, they were actually about ready to fight each other because John Cena started, obviously acting like he wasn't going to stop. So they started, acting like they were going to fight. Dean taking off his leather jacket and all that good stuff. And so then the Authority came out, and they said, Triple H goes, "Guys, don't fight. You're going to be busy tonight because you're not going to be fighting Seth Rollins. You're going to be fighting other guys." And he pretty much says that you guys are going to be in a match tonight. But he didn't say who. And so John Cena got mad and said, "Well, you know what? I'll just go and get him." And John Cena... I am so sorry, guys. It keeps saying no connection again. I'm not sure what's going on with my computer because it says I have connection and everything. I don't know if it's a thing with Google Hangouts. I'll fix it though. I'll fool around with it later on after the show goes up. But sorry about that. But anyways, John Cena gets out of the ring, and so does Dean, and they go to attack Seth. And Randy and Kane, Corporate Kane, obviously, they attack them. And Seth gets out of the crowd and goes to the crowd. And Dean follows them, and they, fight backstage and everything like that. And then Dean eventually gets into another guy's car. He shoves him out of the way and drives off. And so that's pretty much that. It was pretty good, very good segment, actually, I should say. Pretty much John Cena and Dean getting, riled up. Actually, I would love to see a match between those two. Very good match. But, yeah, that's pretty much that. And Seth, obviously, we knew Seth was going to be back very shortly. You knew he wasn't going to be gone either. I knew he was going to be back by the end of the night. But, yeah, he drove away, and so, Dean and John Cena just went on their married way, and that was pretty much that. What were your thoughts on this whole thing, Dean? Or did I just say Dean?
That's okay. I can be really big friend. I can be a little crazy in this Raw review. Great way to reintroduce the Lunatic Fringe. Getting them involved, not just with Seth Rollins, but the main eventers, the Authority, and John Cena. And with Roman Reigns gone, as you mentioned in the review with Chris Sterling, it's a perfect opportunity for Dean Ambrose to step up. And this is maybe an opportunity the company didn't envision for Dean Ambrose, but right now there's not a lot of pieces on the chessboard to put in main event storylines, and Dean Ambrose is certainly a viable one, and the Lunatic Fringe made an impact, and interacting with Cena, teasing a possible match, good stuff, but as the old adage in wrestling goes, Haley,
we keep messing up our names.
But Mania, brother. Enemy of my enemy is my friend. And John Cena and Dean Ambrose, despite, of course, history with the Shield and John Cena, and, Dean Ambrose and John Cena just don't strike me as guys who would be hanging out at the bar after the show together anyway. Maybe both at the bar, but not together. But, they made it work, and as you said, Seth powdered, but we wouldn't be the last we see of Seth. Overall, I'd say it was a good start. We obviously didn't see Lesnar, and as, we're not even going to know when we're going to see Lesnar next, apparently. So that was unfortunate. I felt like with Seth Rollins having the audacity to try to cash in on the Beast, I know it was after 4 AAs, or FUs, as you like to call it. But, after 4 FUs and a curb stop, you'd think Brock Lesnar would want to come back and tear some mother effer's head off. I mean, you're the baddest dude on the planet. You're former UFC champ, and not only did John Cena get the better of you, and like you said, you and Duo Dreamer were kind of, you didn't really like the match. He did. I'm kind of in the middle. I think it was interesting to see Cena look that good and come back, but I think they did damage to Lesnar in the process by having him look that weak, especially after the run he had been on with Big Show, Undertaker, and Cena. And then, I didn't mind Seth coming out. I thought that was cool. But again, you're the Beast. You're Brock Lesnar. If some punk who was running with the Shield, who's got the Money in the Bank briefcase, tried to cash in on me, you better believe we're going to eat, sleep, conquer, repeat, and we're going to break some architect. At least that's the way I'm looking at it, Von Brock Lesnar. So I know the next big thing, the Beast Incarnate, isn't necessarily booked, and we don't know if he's going to be booked for Night of Champions. I mean, for Hell in a Cell, rather. It's up in the air. I thought they missed an opportunity, and I thought that would have really elevated Seth, and Dean could have kind of been in the mix. But as I said, Dean's the one who really makes out here, who kind of gets elevated higher than he would have been before this. Just unfortunate Lesnar wasn't here. That one's bothering me a little bit. I don't know what's bothering me more, that or the fact that Bray Wyatt was a healthy scratch on a pay-per-view and a Raw consecutively. But we'll get to that.
I definitely want to talk about the Bray Wyatt thing because it's driving me nuts. But yeah, pretty much the whole Brock Lesnar thing. They don't really. I've been doing some research on it, and they don't know. They're pretty much, he's not booked for Hell in a Cell. They were going to give him this pay-per-view off. So it looks like this is obviously going to be what they're working with, is John Cena and Dean probably tag teaming versus Randy and Seth. But, who knows what can happen. I do think it's kind of bizarre, though, that Paul was not there last night. I mean, if Brock Lesnar wasn't there, okay, whatever. But they have to they have to at least, I would think that they would have to write him off for at least a month if they are going to give him a month off. I mean, but he's rarely there anyway, so I guess it really doesn't even matter. But, yeah, it was just bizarre that they didn't even talk about it, and they just jumped right into Seth cashing in, which was technically the main thing, I guess you could say, because yeah, but I guess still, Brock's still the champ. Aren't we supposed to be focusing on the WWE champion here? And obviously they didn't see to that. They might do something with it on Friday or probably next Monday. I'm thinking maybe Paul come up next Monday. I would think so, and just say something. But Brock's never there anyways. He's only there like once a month or every other month or every other week, something like that. He's rarely there anyways, usually just the going home show and the show after. So who knows? We'll see. Usually Paul's always there, though, so that's what I'm saying. I thought that was weird that Paul wasn't there. But, yeah, we'll see.
From what I had heard about Paul Lee from NoDQ.com, that he was sent home early because there was a bunch of rewrites, and they were rewriting the show practically right before the show started, and they edited Paul out, and clearly connecting the dots, they didn't know what to do with Paul anyway, because it looks like they don't know where Lesnar stands for this month. And I'm sorry, just from a protection of your character standpoint, if I'm Brock Lesnar, what the hell else you got better to do? Sit there and hang out with your wife in Minnesota? Come on, I like looking at Sable too, but not that much. If I got punked out at the end of a pay-per-view, not only did John Cena give me not one, not two, not three, but 4 attitude adjustments had you laid out, but the next generation, the Money in the Bank, Seth Rollins has the audacity to to me, just the fact that he tried to cash it on Brock, like the audacity of this kid. This dude beat Big Show, Undertaker, and Cena like it was nothing, and so now you're going to get punked? I actually thought, based on the way that pay-per-view ended, Haley, that would be a perfect opportunity to move Brock into a somewhat babyface role. I'm not saying he would have been a John Cena, kissing babies, shaking hands, PG kind of babyface, and I'm not saying he would be a totally Rage Against the Machine, Steve Austin, Dwayne Johnson kind of babyface. But what I think he could have been, he already has the segment of fans that are going to cheer him regardless, just because he is who he is. And that varies from show to show and from city to city. Chicago, other places will probably boo him more than others. Cheer him rather more than others. So with Seth getting his nose involved, that sets up the Authority get involved. Now you don't have to turn Randy Orton babyface to face Brock Lesnar, because I think that would have been a big problem, in my opinion. And in my opinion, that match at some point needs to happen while Brock's here. At least once. Give us Randy. I know we're not getting Batista and Brock. Give us Randy and Brock once. It's a dream match that should happen. But you got punked out. You took 5 finishing moves. That's the lasting image of the WWE champion. 5 finishing moves, and you get punked out at the end of the show. And now, essentially, Randy and Seth, I guess, are fighting your battles for you, even though Seth tried to cash in on you. If I'm Brock Lesnar, I go out, I take out everybody. Baby faces, heels, you are the Alpha, the Omega, the Destroyer, the Monster, the Beast Incarnate, Brock Lesnar. You ended The Undertaker, you destroyed Big Show, you destroyed Cena. Yeah, Cena, again, you didn't like the match last night. Duo Dreamer really liked it. I was somewhere in the middle. I was kind of lukewarm on it. But at the same time, it's like you've built him up so much, you're going to try to break him down that quickly, and then for him not to reciprocate, it's very disappointing. I really wish he would be part of the Hell in the Cell pay-per-view. I actually think a blow-off match with John Cena and Lesnar in a Hell in the Cell could be pretty good. The last time we saw Brock in a Hell in the Cell, it was actually against The Undertaker, Biker Undertaker, probably 03 or 02. 03. And, no, 02, excuse me, 2002. And that final blow-off match they had at the No Mercy October pay-per-view, Brock beat the hell out of The Undertaker, and it was actually probably a top 5, top 10 Hell in the Cell match when you consider some of the weaker ones we've seen lately. So I think Brock and Cena could have told a good story in the Hell in a Cell, and that's what the Hell in a Cell is technically designed to do. It's to be the ultimate culmination of a big feud, and to have the finish, the screwy finish, which they did, which a lot of us thought could happen, a screwy finish at Night of Champions. It made perfect sense to have them fight in a Hell in a Cell match, or Dean and Seth for that matter, which is something we've all been clamoring for a while. Now, let's keep in mind, they do have to have a Hell in a Cell match, because it is the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. You're talking about a tag team match. I think what ends up happening, given the information you have given me about Brock Lesnar, which I did not know about before going on to the show today, fatal four-way for the number one contender, Dean, Seth, Cena, and Randy.
That actually could work, too. Definitely.
And then Cena could
John
win.
and Dean don't like each other right now, so I really don't think. And Randy and Seth really don't like each other either, so it would be perfect.
You know what I mean? I feel like with Hell in a Cell, they haven't done a more than two-person Hell in a Cell, a more one-on-one match in probably over a decade. As a matter of fact, the only one I can even think of that was more than two people was the six-person Hell in a Cell, where Rikishi got thrown off of it on his fat butt. But I think it would be different. A fatal four-way, you throw in Rollins and Ambrose with that environment. Lesnar, Cena, or even Orton, Cena, it still has the potential to be a good match.
Definitely.
So, I'd think that over a tag team. And they'll save the tag team stuff for Survivor Series.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we already know, it's going to be, obviously, the Authority is going to obviously be involved with the Survivor Series.
Yeah.
Alrighty. They had a little backstage segment, and this is when he pretty much made the matches, So, Randy and Kane were arguing, obviously, about Seth and what the hell he was doing out there. And Triple H made two matches. He told Kane that he was going to face Dean, which is crazy because Dean Ambrose, they had on WWE.com, I don't know if anyone's seen this before, it had Dean Ambrose versus Randy Orton for later that night. So I don't know why they switched it. Maybe because they wanted John Cena in the main event. And they thought, obviously, Randy would make for a better main event. So obviously that's probably why they did that. But they made Kane face Dean, and then they made for Randy versus John. And Randy said, why do we have to fight them? Why can't Seth fight them? Triple H said, well, Seth isn't here. And we thought you would want, some redemption, for what happened out there earlier. And Randy says, fine. He says, but you know what? Tell Money in the Bank to stop starting fires that we have to put out. And obviously, there has been some tension with Randy and Seth for the past, I would say, at least a couple, I feel like since the beginning. Randy has not liked Seth because obviously Seth is their future and Randy is obviously the Authority's present right now. And so he obviously doesn't like Seth because obviously he's competition to him, and he's just, Randy's got that jealousy type. I like Randy a lot, but he had it with Kofi, and he's had problems with Roman too. So he's got that jealousy type, and it wouldn't really surprise me if he's like that in real life with Seth too. It really wouldn't surprise me. But yeah, I do definitely see Randy and Seth feuding in their near future, either when Seth turns back face or I don't know, whenever. But I definitely do see them feuding in the near future because they have to. It's just like, why wouldn't they? Having all these problems, and they would have such a great match, It just wouldn't make sense for them not to fight.
Yeah, no, it would definitely be a great matchup between the two. Say what you want about Orton, one of the greatest workers of the past 20 years, arguably. But, Orton, we've talked about it recently, and it's been a big discussion in the IWC, YWC as of late. What's to do with Randy Orton at this point? Is there any more to do with Randy Orton? That would be a great match. I don't know if you'd end up doing it heel versus heel. I think they could possibly do that, but with the shortage of baby faces, Bryan, Roman on the shelf, maybe not a good idea. But I don't know. It has intrigue to it. And I was going to save this thought for later in the show, but I'll just throw this thought out now. As we saw the lasting images of Raw, and I'm not going to give away the spoilers of what they were, but a little bit of spoiler, I guess. Only thing I can think of was like, wow, like the attention really is on Seth. Seth to me seems like he is the MVP, pardon the pun, of the Authority, and Orton, he's becoming more like, I'm not saying like the Kenny King, like compared to the TNA thing, but like almost like just kind of a side player in this, for lack of a better way of saying it.
Yeah, definitely. His all attention was on him last night, pretty much. Him and Dean, that was like their main focus. And yeah, of course they had John Cena in there a little bit, but it was really, no one really cared about that. Not trying to be mean to, John Cena. I do like John Cena, but it's just like the main focus was obviously on Dean Ambrose's return and Seth, pretty much cashing in from last night.
Yeah, I got a thought on how on the image we were left besides Seth on Cena and Dean Ambrose as well, and it's an interesting one. We'll see. That's an interesting one.
Definitely. Okay, next this is a rematch. They had a few rematches from last night, obviously, on this tonight's, but this was actually an interesting one. As soon as I seen it, I knew Dolph was gonna win. My brother was just like, "No, he isn't. Miz is gonna win." I'm like, "No, just watch. They're gonna have Dolph win." They have been flipping titles, the Intercontinental and the Divas. They have been flipping for the past like 3 or 4 months. They've just been flipping back and forth, and it's just driving me nuts. I mean, I love Dolph Ziggler and I love The Miz, so I didn't care who won it, but it's just like, seriously, it's just like, keep it on one person. Hopefully they keep it on Dolph at least for 3 or 4 more months, because this is getting ridiculous. But anyways, obviously, Dolph Ziggler wins, and our Ziggler was not there, so obviously they killed our Ziggler, and Miz Dolph Ziggler, obviously. Obviously, our Ziggler is not going to be in the picture anymore, unless, I mean, maybe if he has a tag team match, maybe they'll bring him back, who knows. But as for right now, it looks like they're done with our Ziggler, because Dolph doesn't need him right now anymore.
I mean, interesting way this match finished. He grabbed the tights just like Miz grabbed
the tights. Yep.
We
just
got
like
two
Miz. So technically
change.
they both cheated, so technically there should definitely be a rematch. And Miz obviously gets a rematch anyways, because he won the title and then Dolph won it back, so obviously Miz gets a rematch anyways, no matter what. It's pretty much...
Good.
It's pretty much just to keep this feud going. That's pretty much the only way that I can see them keep flipping the title, is just to keep this feud going, and so they can keep having a rematch, and which is fine. I mean, it's a good feud and everything like that, but, I mean, it just comes to a point, and this is what I said, for the Night of Champions review yesterday, it comes to a point that people are going to get sick of this. Keep seeing the title changes, because they're not going to care anymore. They're going to be like, oh, Miz is going to win this time, and then they're not going to watch the match. They're not even going to care, because it's not going to be surprising. I mean, yes, I'm sure it surprised a few people that Dolph Ziggler won last night, but it's just like, what are you gonna do when they have a rematch again? And if Miz wins, they're gonna be like, oh, there's obviously a pattern going on here, so the next match they're not gonna want to watch, because obviously they know Dolph Ziggler's gonna win obviously the next match, and it's just gonna keep going on, and people aren't gonna care about the title, and it's just gonna make it look so plain and boring, and it's not going to be good. And they can still continue the feud with having Dolph Ziggler win. I mean, he can just maybe win by countout or something. If they really want to do this stuff to make this feud last longer, have him win kind of like cheaply, almost kind of like the whole Rusev and Jack Swagger thing. They just kept having Rusev win. He had a few cheap wins, so obviously they could continue the feud. That's fine, but when you keep switching the title, it's not going to do anything. It's not going to be good.
I think if you do it every once in a while to throw predictability off from the fans, it's fine. Because, again, sometimes predictable is good, sometimes predictable is bad. I heard you talking about the finish with the Orton-Jericho match. I think you had a good point. Yeah, it was predictable, but it was still a good match. What did people want? If I knew Jericho was leaving, yeah, it would have been nice to see Jericho win. And I feel like the end of the match, that point where Jericho stood on the I felt like he stood there about 30 seconds too long. He should have jumped like earlier, but maybe he was just trying to make sure Randy was in position to catch him the right way. And he dove. You could tell he dove with a headbutt right in to be caught too. Just my thoughts on Jericho's exit there. But I have a few thoughts on this. Like I said, if you do like one of those things where like when Steve Austin won the title at WrestleMania 14 from Shawn Michaels, and he held it for a few months, but then he lost it to Kane when Kane was going to set himself on fire if he lost, and that was Kane's only WWE title. Had it for one day. Austin came back, was on fire, beat Kane for it, and the crowd went nuts. So there was an example where, okay, like you established Kane as a heel champion, but the hero came back. It didn't necessarily kill Kane. They managed to do that a decade and a half later. So but every once in a while, it's okay. You see it also going on with the Divas title, so it's repetitive already because they kind of got it going on in two different title divisions at the moment. So that's a bit much. It reminds me of late WCW. There was a lot of title changes at that point. Vince Russo and others were just trying to hotshot things, desperately trying to get ratings. At one point, when Vince Russo's reign began on camera, they had every champion be, literally Haley, every champion be stripped of their belt and like on television and completely fresh. So we've seen some wacky things. This seemed very Vince Russo-esque, if you will. At the same time, I am weird in that I like the math of it, and hey, if this is going to, like, bolster Ziggler and Miz's, like, stats, I'm okay with that. Like, The Miz, for example, he's what, like a 4 or 5 time Intercontinental Champion now?
Yeah, he's had it quite a few times.
He may have a chance to catch Jericho if he keeps this up. So there's a pretty cool thing and a way to establish the Intercontinental title again, I guess, but he would have to win it and lose it a few more times. He's probably at 4 or 5. Ziggler, I know how many he's had it. 3-time Intercontinental Champion. I love Zig. He's worked hard to get back in position to hold a championship, even though it's the mid-card title, and I know he holds it proudly and near and dear to his heart, so it was great to see him get that W back. I actually got an interesting stat, Haley, for you. I got a few stats for you today. This moment, The Miz and Dolph Ziggler actually made history on Monday. It was the first time in history an opponent had lost the Intercontinental title to the man he beat him, to the man that beat the individual the night prior. And both times it happened to The Miz. At WrestleMania, all right, are we back? Haley's back. Everybody's back.
I'm about ready to kill this thing.
I'm getting better at that transition, so that's good. Hold on, let me get the camera set here. I know you can hear me, but let me get the camera set. Boom. All right. Before I was so rudely interrupted, I guess Google Hangouts doesn't want my Joey Dice stat of the day. Damn it. Anyway, The Miz is the only man to win and then get defeated by the man he won the title from for the Intercontinental title. I know I said that funny, but it happened twice. Once at WrestleMania 29, Bad News Barrett defeated The Miz for the Intercontinental Championship at the or it might have been the opposite, where The Miz defeated Bad News Barrett for the Intercontinental Championship on the pre-show to WrestleMania 29, and then on the Raw after Mania, Bad News Barrett defeated The Miz to recapture it. And obviously we saw what happened in the past 48 hours. The Miz defeating Dolph Ziggler at Night of Champions, and then Ziggler getting his win back on Raw. So I don't know if it's history you want to make. It's an obscure stat, certainly, but history-making nonetheless. And I'm sure The Miz will somehow find a way to brag about that, even though it's not necessarily good history.
I actually just looked it up, and it was 4 times. Miz has it 4 times.
Okay, yeah, I figured it was 4 or 5. So he's getting up there. You know, he'll pass Jeff Hardy and Shelton Benjamin and John Morrison.
Yeah, altogether, they've been pretty short. It said it was only 114 days. That's pretty short.
That is an ugly stat.
Yeah. So it's like as soon as he wins them, he loses them. So it's just like he doesn't keep them for very long, obviously. So. But yeah, it was interesting. Obviously, that we're going to see a rematch, and obviously this feud's going to continue. which is I'm fine with it because I like these two. You know, I know Chris. He had a different opinion on this. He didn't care for it too much because he I guess he pretty much said that once you see one Dolph Ziggler match, you know you've seen them all. And you know that's his opinion, and I respect it. But I still really enjoy this feud because they're best friends in real life. They've always had good feud. They've always had good chemistry in the ring. And I always like watching these two wrestle together. I always think they're very good.
I love seeing them wrestle. Like you, I am both the Misfit and I don't even know what you'd call a Ziggler fan. But I'm a fan of both of these gentlemen. It's hard for me to pick a favorite one over the other because there's elements that one does over the other better. Miz probably a slightly better talker. Dolph obviously is great in the ring, and I understand what Duo Dreamer was saying because, like, Ziggler will hit these high spots, you know, the 10 elbows, this and that, the famous sir, but it is kind of predictable where there was a point I felt like where he was using the sleeper more, and he was doing different stuff, and, like, so I feel like sometimes this goes back to watching your film, to, like, say a football term, and kind of see, like, what am I doing too much? What can I adapt? And I feel like with Ziggler, I don't know if it's a matter of, like, who he's paired up against or just his own psychology, and maybe that's what's holding him back from the main events, is little subtle things like that, how to make your matches different. Because one thing is, you know, you got to be wrestling hundreds of times a year. You got to know how to make matches different. So certainly, I think it's valid criticism. I mean, you know me, I'm a huge Ziggler fan. I'm not trying to take anything away from the guy. But I think it was a fair criticism. Like, you know, like Chris was saying, Duo Dreamer, maybe it's going to take a great grappler like a Cesaro or someone to pull a great match out of them. And look, we've seen Ziggler have great matches over the years with the likes of Cody Rhodes, Rey Mysterio, CM Punk, Daniel Bryan, before Daniel Bryan was Daniel Bryan. Like, Ziggler's had so many great matches with so many people over the years. Kofi Kingston, yet another one. Miz. So Kofi's, I mean, even Cena and Dolph had a great. I thought they had a pretty good rapport in the ring. So, you know, like Duo Dreamer was saying, guys like Miz and Cena, they're kind of stand-up, predictable guys. So when you put that with another predictable style, it gives rise to predictable results. I understand what he's saying, but I think at the end of the day, it goes to the individual performer to know, what am I doing too much? What can I change up? What haven't I done in a while that the fans will pop? I mean, take, for example, Jericho. He's one of the best at that. And the fact that he's worked all over the world before he even got to WWF, with WCW, Japan, ECW, Canada, etc., Mexico, Germany, he learned how to work different crowds and how to work different matches and how to gauge that. You know, case in point, his cage match with Bray Wyatt, he does the dive off the cage, which he hadn't done since he was in the Indies before WCW. So it goes to show you that saving the right plays for the right time. And even you were saying it about Ziggler in yesterday's show, Haley, that, you know, saving your big spots for when it matters. Like, I remember, you know, back when TLC matches used to matter, you'd save your big spots for something like that. Yeah, I mean, where Ziggler, he does take these tremendous bumps. Maybe it comes down to pacing, doing little subtle things differently. Dolph does have charisma. I've always felt he's had very good charisma. He just isn't a good promo cutter for whatever reason. But he does have charisma, and he does have a connection. It's odd that you can have 2 out of the 3 have charisma, a connection with the audience, but not be a good promo cutter. Or like, yeah. I guess you could be Ultimate Warrior or something, but that's kind of apples and oranges. So, I mean, little things like this, it certainly is the difference between Ziggler being a main eventer and a upper mid card. So it's things to pay attention to. But at the same time, I'm certainly a fan of Dolph's work, and anytime you can try to make your stuff different, it's a good thing. I will say that.
Yeah, definitely. And I do agree. I do agree that Dolph needs to just slow down sometimes, but I still love him.
Oh, yeah. Me too. Show off.
Next match was obviously a tiebreaker. Hopefully this is done now. Because I mean they just keep having matches on Raw and SmackDown. They're not even doing it on the pay-per-view, which I thought this could have been something if they would have done it. But now it's just kind of getting like it's done. It's over. Jack Swagger's won 2 out of 3. It's done. It needs to be over. Bo Dallas versus Jack Swagger. They had 3 matches. Jack won 1. Bo won 1, and then Jack won the last one. So obviously this needs to be done. It's just if they're not going to have it on a pay-per-view, it doesn't even matter. It just needs to be done, and they need to move on to something else because what's the point? What is Bo going to say? Oh, I want another rematch and then win again? Is this just going to be a more continuing thing? It needs to be ended. It needs to be ended. Jack Swagger's won 2 out of 3. It's done. Jack Swagger won. Blah.
To me, there's fresh matchups that both Jack Swagger and Bo Dallas, quite frankly, still new on the scene, can have. You can do Swagger versus Cesaro, Swagger versus Sheamus, Swagger versus Seth Rollins, Swagger versus a bunch of guys. So it's a matter of how they want to use them, but there's pieces on the chessboard. It's just a matter of how they want to use them. And Bo, I'm a Bo leaver, but I worry for Bo's direction where it's going to lead after this. It just doesn't seem like there's anything promising for him right now.
Yeah, my brother was saying that, they're destroying Bo Dallas right now. And I'm like, well, not really, because he did win a match against Jack Swagger. I mean, if they were really going to destroy him, they would have obviously had Jack Swagger win all 3 times. So they're not, destroying him. They're giving Jack Swagger a little bit more of a push right now than Bo, and which is good. I wanted this more because, like I said, Bo is newer. Bo is going to have, time to obviously get a push. Jack Swagger, he's been there longer. This is the time for him. His face turn is still, people are still behind him, especially with Zeb. I'm so glad that Zeb did not turn on him. I'm so glad that they kept him with Zeb. He needs Zeb. And yes, he has gotten better at his talking, but Zeb just makes the fans get so behind him with Zeb. And it makes it for his face turn, definitely. So that's why I think that this was a very good decision on WWE for making Zeb stay with Jack Swagger. I was happy about that. But Jack Swagger needs the push right now. Bo can wait a little bit.
Yeah, it came down to who needed to win more or wins more, Haley. And I feel like Jack Swagger did need the wins more. The whole build him down to break him down to build him back up, rather. And obviously he had lost all the matches against Rusev. Can't get any lower, so you got to build back up, whether he goes at Rusev again, which I guess could happen, or U.S. title or other directions. We shall see. But, they got something here. It's not completely dead, and people do get... It's funny with Zeb. He was so hated 2 years ago, and he does pop the fans, and I had even expressed concerns with Zeb being a babyface manager, but hey, if the crowd's in it, the crowd's in it. Who am I to complain if they're into it? That's all I look for.
It's yes, Zeb is probably more of a heel manager, but Jack Swagger needed this face turn because obviously the fans are going to be behind him no matter what because he's with Zeb. So they obviously went with a smart decision here and just said, well, you know what, we'll let Jack Swagger roll with a face turn for a little bit and see what he can do with it.
Absolutely.
Okay. Summer Rae versus Natalya. And now we see Rosa Mendez is obviously with Natalya now, and Layla is obviously with Summer Rae. Now, Summer Rae and Layla, is it just me or is it this is kind of like an Alicia Fox thing, what they used to do with Alicia Fox, for a 1 week a face and 1 week a heel?
It's confusing.
Obviously, it seems like they're going to be a heel now since they're feuding with Summer Rae's feuding with Natalya because of Total Divas. But it's just it seems like it was just they were faces and they were heels and they were faces and they were heels, and it's just they didn't know what to do with them, and it's just drives me nuts. But
I think Summer is so much better than this. I don't want to start throwing her into the pile of other people that we complain about. They misused this one, that one. But, Summer, she's a very talented wrestler. She's young. She's not that young, actually. She's in her 30s.
Yeah, she's
but,
30, yeah.
she's a veteran. She can work, and her character. I think her character is better off as a heel. Like when she came to get revenge on Layla in the chicken suit. It's funny they re-showed that footage the other day on Total Divas. Made me think about it. She popped okay as a face, but then once they turned her and Layla together, like were they trying to recreate Lay Cool? It was
That's exactly, and the blondie too. She's a blonde, just like Michelle McCool. That's totally them. Wow, that's totally them.
2.0 or something, but baby face and trying to make Fandango jealous. By the way, Fandango, where you been at lately, bro? Yeah, I just, now they're done with the feud with Fandango, obviously, and they're still tagging up, and now they're going to go back to heel, unexplained, just because Total Divas happened. Definitely flaws in your storytelling, and, if this was a TV show, I've cited this in the past, if this was a TV show, if this was Breaking Bad, or, Gotham, new show, everybody's talking about Gotham, debuted the other day, and there was these kind of, like, holes in the plot, people would lose their freaking mind. But it happens on Raw, it seems like on a week-to-week basis, whereas there's some kind of hole, sometimes in a segment basis. Even in Nikki's promo coming up, she contradicted herself at the beginning and then at the middle of her promo. And she did it last week, too. It's like, get your bullet points right. Ugh. Oh, my God.
That whole thing's a mess.
Yeah.
But, I do kind of like seeing Natalya and Rosa Mendes together. It gives Rosa Mendes something to do, I know you really like her. My brother really likes her too. So I'm not in love with her, but I don't hate her. So if they have something for her, go for it.
I guess it's just like she's been there so long, almost like how you feel about Jack Swagger. It's like I feel for the girl. She's not particularly talented. She's not the cutest girl they have. She's attractive, no doubt about it. She's not my top 5 if I had to go that way. But like she's valuable in her own right, so why not?
Yep. Next, Dean Ambrose versus Kane. And obviously this match did not obviously finish because we knew Seth was going to come back and Seth attacked Dean. And then he just pretty much ran away, and that was pretty much that. I guess we can talk a little bit about the backstage segment because this was right after. And then Seth and Kane backstage. Seth was laughing, and Triple H kind of got into Seth's face a little bit and said, I know you want to, take care of Dean, but you need to stop starting fires. And Seth goes, what do you want from me, And Dean goes crazy and attacks him from behind. And they put him and they lock him in a room, pretty much, like a closet door. And they put security guards all around there, and they think, obviously, he's not going to get out. And obviously, you knew he was going to get out. My brother was just like, when he was watching, because I was watching it with him again last night, because we watched it at different times, he was saying that, I bet you $50 Dean Ambrose is just going to come through the vent or the duct tapes. Oh, God, that was so funny. But pretty much they didn't show him getting out. And we'll talk more about this in the main event. They didn't show him actually coming out of the room, but obviously he did something like that where he went through the vents and went through the ductwork, and obviously. But, yeah, that's pretty much that. They just pretty much locked him in a room, which was funny. It was just like the Paul Heyman thing, it reminded me of that from last week. But obviously it fits Dean because they keep saying how crazy he is and how he needs to be in a padded cell. So it worked for Dean, to be locked up in a room. And it made for a good angle.
I love the part where Stephanie was like, you picked out 40 people and it never works. So let's lock them in. I actually thought that was my favorite. That was the line of the night, I felt. That was a pretty funny line. Kind of breaking the fourth wall a little bit. Good stuff. I liked it. Good line by Stephanie. All in all, this Brian Pillman, Steve Austin, crazy character, it's working, and they threw him in a padded room, literally, with security guards, but not even that can stop the lunatic fringe, apparently. Oh, yeah, good job. One thing about the match, Kane, you botched the dirty deeds, you big, goofy lug. Old 45-year-old needs. Not how you front bump.
But, that was pretty much that. And so they thought, obviously, they took care of him, but that obviously does not happen in the main event. They thought, and they don't show it even, him coming out, but he does get out eventually. But Yeah, they pretty much they locked him in a room and they thought he was going to be fine and everything. And Triple H obviously checked in on him a few times during the night and stuff and said, oh, is he still locked in there? And they're like, he hasn't made a peep. And he got kind of wild for like the first 10 seconds and then you didn't hear anything from him from the rest of the night. So obviously they thought everything was under control and it wasn't, but we'll talk more about that later. Sheamus and the Usos versus Cesaro, Stardust, and Goldust. And obviously Stardust and Goldust are your new tag team champs. And the Usos and Sheamus win. It was a pretty basic match. So it looks like maybe Cesaro and Sheamus are going to still feud because we might as well bring this up right now because he was either supposed to be feuding with Sheamus or Dolph. So I'm going to bring this up right now, the Bray Wyatt thing. Now's a good time as any. Okay, so Bray Wyatt, I was doing some research, and they said that even though he didn't have a match at Night of Champions, he was supposed to either come out during the Intercontinental US and attack someone and obviously start his next feud.
Yeah.
And that did not happen. And so I'm like, okay, well, that's not a huge deal. Obviously they can do that tonight, and it didn't happen again. He was not on the show at all. No sign of the Wyatts either. So no sign of any of the Wyatts. It wasn't just Bray Wyatt. It was no sign of any of the Wyatts. I'm not sure what's going on. One can only hope that he is going to be on SmackDown tonight. I'm going to check, too, for spoilers and everything. But hopefully he's on tonight. Or, I don't even know. I don't even know if they're just, they don't have anything for him. And so they're just keeping him off TV, kind of like the whole Big Show thing when he did his movie, and he was ready to come back, but they kept him off TV for another month or two because they didn't get creative, it didn't have anything for him. This worries me that they're already stuck on him because this is not good. It's just give him a title, Even though he's not going to be in the main event, it'll still give him something to do, and it'll still get the fans excited to see him as a U.S. champion or an Intercontinental champion. Get him involved in, the mid-card, belts and stuff like that. It's just he doesn't always have to, feud with a main eventer guy. He can just, as long as you give him something, a good storyline that people will get behind, he'll be okay. I'm not saying that he's going to, raise up to the top and then get the title already, because there's obviously a lot of people down that road right now that have a chance at the title. Roman Reigns, Seth, Daniel Bryan, when he probably comes back, he'll get it again. There's people down that road right now, and hopefully Dean in the near future too. But it's just just because you don't have any other main event guys for him doesn't mean that you should just put him aside and not have anything for him. My website was talking about this for quite a few weeks, that he was they didn't know if he was either going to feud with Dolph Ziggler or Sheamus. It was first going to be with Sheamus, but then they were thinking oh, well, maybe Rusev will feud with Sheamus, and then we'll get Bray Wyatt, Dolph Ziggler, which would have been fine. So hopefully they still do that. But it looks like Miz and Dolph are going to be feuding for a while. Now, it would be kind of interesting if they put Bray Wyatt into that mixture, make it a triple threat match, give it some potential, I'm sure people can get behind that. Or even if they want Sheamus and well, it seems like Rusev's still going to be feuding with Mark Henry, maybe. I don't know, though. He beat Mark Henry twice. Giving that, obviously, the second time was obviously he passed out. But it's just just give him something, and I don't know. It seems like Sheamus and Cesaro, I don't know if this was their ending of the feud or what, or if they're going to still continue this. But it's just what is going on with any of the Wyatts? It's not even just Bray Wyatt. Where were the Wyatts in general, It's so ridiculous that, and that actually could have been a good match. The Ascension versus the Wyatts, even though they're both heels, I would have loved to see that match.
The Shield and Wyatt were technically both heels when they first fought, and I bring this up. A friend of mine who's a casual observer of wrestling watched it in the Attitude Era, watches it here and there. He watched the match from the Wyatts and Shield just from a few months ago, Elimination Chamber, and obviously we know what happened with the Shield, broke up, all getting main event pushes, no problem with that. But with the Wyatts, it's what the hell happened? This whole group was such a hot entity, And now, I mean, yeah, you could say maybe there's no one they trust to be on his level to tell a good story like him and Jericho or him and Cena or him and others told. Which, okay, I could buy that. Have him be there when it counts, but have him be a healthy scratch for a pay-per-view and a Raw has me, and the family, not just him, as you mentioned. It's certainly head-scratching. It's alarming when there's so much bad wrestling on that one of the only good points and one of the only points that people, whether they like the Wyatt family or not, they tune in to see what they're going to do because they're so interesting and captivating. And we're really at the point where we got nothing for them. It's sad. I think interjecting him with The Miz and Ziggler actually could work because, you got kind of these two cocky pretty boys on the surface. And here comes Bray Wyatt to humble them both. You could kind of have three different representations of people there. The people who are into The Miz, the sellouts, the heel-loving people, the Dolph Ziggler fans who love the athleticism, love the stealing the show ability, and the Bray Wyatt fans. I mean, it could be organic. It could be cool. And but then maybe you'd have yet another IC title change, too. And I'm sure you're getting an IC title shot. And you're getting an IC title run. And it's like Oprah's just handing them out left and right. Unbelievable. Remember when Wade Barrett was the Intercontinental Champion? I do. That was only 3 months ago?
Yeah, something like that. I don't know. It was a little bit ago. Isn't he supposed to be returning pretty soon?
Pretty soon. I'm afraid I've got some bad news.
I love him. He's one of my favorites. Oh, I love him so much. But, yeah, I'm upset about Bray Wyatt, He's one of my favorites, and I love him so much. And look, but I do love him, so.
There's only sometimes a healthy scratch isn't the worst thing in the world. It can be motivating. I'm sure Bray Wyatt is motivated to get back, and I'm sure the next time we see him on television, the next promo he cuts is going to be full of piss and vinegar. I mean, heck, look what it took to get the best out of CM Punk. 6-7 years of him being ticked off before he finally broke through the glass ceiling, as they say. So, I haven't lost hope in Bray Wyatt, but it's alarming. To me, it just, again, speaks to the lack of planning, because now we're getting to a point where you have one of your hottest commodities or someone who's been one of your hottest commodities, and he's, he's in the same category, Cesaro, Ziggler, and all these guys. Like, they push him a little bit, and then they don't know what to do with him. Long-term planning, it just befuddles me. Maybe they just need to kind of keep it simple and not overthink themselves. Too many cooks in the kitchen, too many writers, whatever the case may be. Maybe simplify it, have 3 writers, Triple H and Vince, because that seems like that's the way NXT is. It's simple. It's back to basics, but it works, and it's captivating at times. It's refreshing. So to me, it's very alarming. The Bray Wyatt concern meter, I got it at about 5 or 6 at the moment. I don't have it at Cesaro level, or at least Cesaro 2 months ago level just yet, but we're getting there. I mean, a lot of people saw on TV, Haley, they were beating the Los Matadors on SmackDown. Not a good look. They shouldn't even be in the same ring as the stupid Los Matadors.
No, God. Ugh. Yeah, I do agree that when he comes back, obviously the fans are going to be excited for him, and even if it's just next Monday, or even if he comes, for SmackDown, the fans are still going to be excited, because then they're going to be like, oh, there you are, I thought, you were going to be off TV for a little bit, they're going to be excited. And, I mean, obviously it's not good timing right now, but I would definitely like to see him feud with Dean Ambrose in the near future, definitely. Obviously Dean's busy with Seth, but when Seth's going to be busy with Roman with the whole title picture in a few months, hopefully, him and Dean can, do something. And I know that they already feuded with the Wyatts, the Shield and the Wyatts, but Dean and Bray Wyatt just doing promos by themselves alone, I think that could be great.
And with Daniel Bryan possibly coming back within the next 2 months, hopefully, knock on wood, don't rule that out. I'm not sure if they're going to put Bryan in title shots right away, and don't rule out them rekindling what they had last year. There's unfinished business there, and, they helped each other so much. I mean, obviously Bray Wyatt. That when we look back on it, the Bray Wyatt Daniel Bryan experience is about a year ago, 10 months ago, I guess you could say. Happened in December of last year and carried over to January, where in Providence, Rhode Island, Daniel Bryan split from the Wyatt family, and they say Providence is a notoriously quiet crowd, which pisses me off. Being a Rhode Island native, it pisses me off that we're one of those cities that's known for that. But the crowd was white hot that night. And for the Wyatts, for Bryan, and when Bryan ripped off the jumpsuit and turned face and had his moment, I mean, it was just so incredible. There's just a magic there between Daniel Bryan and Bray Wyatt. And Ambrose and Wyatt is kind of untapped potential. We haven't seen too much of it besides the Shield and the Wyatts matches. So, there's two guys that are tailor-made for great matches with Bray Wyatt. Bray Wyatt, to me, could be the modern-day Jake the Snake Roberts. Jake the Snake Roberts never was a champion in the WWF, not even Intercontinental. However, he was the guy that people always feuded with before they feuded with Hogan. He was essentially the designated guy. And he made a Hall of Fame career out of it. Not everyone can be the champion. So if Bray Wyatt's that guy, I guess I don't hate it. I'd like to see him be a heavyweight champion someday, or at least hold a belt. But there's been better who haven't. Roddy Piper, among others. So, to me, Bray Wyatt is such a strong character, and it's built off his own volition. It's from what's in his mind. I think that may be part of it too. The Bray Wyatt character is not a brainchild of the WWE. It is Bray Wyatt's creativity, and obviously the Wyatt family and everything spawned off from there. So maybe that's it. They should just be like, Bray, just do what you got to do. Here's your opponent. You figure it out. And maybe that'd be more interesting.
And, I kind of feel the same about Dean, too, because if they do eventually give him the title, I do not see him being it for a long time. I'd see like 3 or 4 months. And, it kills me to say this, but it's true. I think he's going to be one of those guys where he's going to be, have some great feuds, but he's never going to get, up as high as what people want him to be. He's going to be like a Mick Foley, and I mean Mick Foley's had obviously the title a few times, actually you could probably put him in, I guess, the Snake Roberts too, but he kind of reminds me a little bit of that, where he's gonna have to claw and fight for it. I definitely see Dean Ambrose being one of the ones, and that's what I seen too when I seen the Shield. I'm like, all 3 of these guys deserve to be a champion, but if I had to pick one guy that was going to have a hard time with it, I picked Dean Ambrose. And it wasn't because I thought he was the least talented. No, Roman, I think, is the one that needs work the most. But obviously Roman is the Rock, so obviously Roman's not going to have a problem with it. He's their powerhouse. And Seth, obviously, he's doing great right now. Obviously, he has Money in the Bank. He's a great heel. And so he's not going to have a problem. Dean, on the other hand, he's kind of, he's still obviously having great feuds, and he's still going to be close to the main event, but he's going to have some trouble. I can definitely see that in the near future.
Hopefully not. Hey, Haley, how about this guy for a potential feud with Bray Wyatt? Captain Charisma. There's another guy in the same category. They got him featured on pre-shows, a guy who's medically cleared to wrestle, don't have anything for him.
I'm actually scared, though, for that. I love Christian, and I really do. He's one of my favorites, but I am scared. He is injury-prone. He is one of those guys that is injury-prone, and I hate to say it, Wade Barrett has fallen in that category, and Dolph Ziggler kind of was with the concussions, and even Corey Graves was with the concussions, too, and I love Corey Graves. I love all these guys that I just named, but they kind of fall into the injury prone, and it's just like as soon as they, come back they're always injured like the next month or two later, and that's what worries me. I don't want him to come back too fast and get hurt again. But he is getting up in age, so I feel like he needs to start thinking about coming back soon if he's going to have a chance at, obviously starting back to whatever they want for him.
Absolutely.
Alrighty. Did I skip something? Oh yeah, I did. Randy Orton and Seth backstage. Obviously Seth approached him, and obviously again with the whole, I mean, they're just so, there's definitely some tension in the air with these two. And Seth pretty much says that, I know you don't want to talk to me right now, I know you're mad at me, but I have a surprise for you. And it's going to be at ringside, and obviously first thing that came to everyone's mind was obviously the cylinder blocks. And he said, also, me and Kane are going to be at ringside for you. And obviously that put a smile on Randy's face. He felt more better, and he obviously wasn't as mad as he was at Seth later. And so that was pretty much that. So we knew that for the main event, obviously Seth and Kane were going to be out there. And obviously they had cylinder blocks ready for John Cena. And obviously you could see that this was obviously a very good setup for Dean to obviously break out of the door and come back.
That a room can hold lunatic foods.
Mark Henry and Rusev. Oh. No, that match, I mean, I know Chris was really disappointed with that. And
Chris likes
that he expected for it to be better, but Joe, I think me and you agreed on this, that we weren't crazy about this. We knew it wasn't going to be amazing, and we were kind of just like on this whole feud. But anyway.
I mean, it was what it was. I mean, you look at this feud, 2 submission losses to Mark Henry, 1 tap out and 1 pass out. It's funny, they pass out first, then the tap out first, then the pass out.
I know, I thought that was weird.
I thought the whole promo leading him getting the thing was weird. He was like, y'all can pick on me if you want tonight. You can say what? You can say sexual chocolate. Like, all the things the crowd trolls him with because I think they feel like us. They're sick of seeing this man 20 years on WWE television. Enough is enough. Go backstage and be an agent, please. No offense. I can make an argument you belong in the Hall of Fame, but that doesn't mean you're captivating on television anymore. And Rusev, here's the thing that I feel like wasn't discussed with you and Chris. In order for a match to work with a monster heel like Rusev, you need a very strong babyface. You need a Hulk Hogan to your Iron Sheik Sergeant Slaughter, if you will. So, that being said, Mark Henry, because they flipped him flip-flop, face heel for years now, and I mean years, and again, we can throw Big Show and Kane in this category as well, I just feel like his validity as like a top-tier contending babyface or a babyface that can elicit sympathy is just not there. I think Zach Gowen could have elicited more sympathy for this match than Mark Henry. And this is no disrespect to Mark Henry or Zach Gowen. I just feel like you need a sympathetic babyface. You know, that's why Jack Swagger worked a little bit more, because you kind of had more sympathy for Jack Swagger. He's busted his ass, you know, even though he's a former world champ, never really booked strongly, never caught a break. Finally something the all-American American, the real American can sink his teeth into. And that's why I think the Swagger thing worked. Not to mention he was obviously a better mat wrestler and younger and just can put on better matches than Mark Henry can at this point. So, to me, whoever the next guy is, I don't know if Sheamus makes sense as a transitional thing if they're planning on giving the U.S. title. But if not, and again, I don't even think Sheamus is that strong of a babyface anymore. The problem is there is a lack of babyfaces on the roster. When you think about it, I mean, Roman's hurt, Bryan's hurt. They don't want to rush into Cena, Rusev. So who does that really leave? You know, that's why I think Big Show.
I feel like they need to turn someone face. I really do.
Boy,
I'm not really sure who, because I don't really want Randy to turn face. Obviously, Seth's not turning face anytime soon. Maybe Brock Lesnar, really. I do kind of want Brock Lesnar to turn face. But for this to happen, and if he's really going to continue feuding with John Cena, then John Cena needs to turn heel, and obviously that's not going to happen.
No, he does not.
So. And Paul Heyman's also going to have to leave probably Brock Lesnar, because there's no way that Paul Heyman is going to be with a face.
I agree with that. I think like Zeb, because I never thought I'd see Zeb get cheered like this. We're just talking about this. I mean, this Paul Heyman DVD might be the most purchased DVD in years. Fans love Paul Heyman, or they love to hate Paul Heyman. Either way, Paul Heyman gets a reaction. And, I mean, maybe they take Paul off television for a while. I don't know exactly what they do, but I just think with this authority thing here, you can almost make, like, Lesnar, Cena, like, equals. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Rock Austin. Austin Rock. Both arguably the top babyface at any point in their run during 1997 to 99 or 2001. You know, their big, prominent 4 or 5 year run there they had, Austin and The Rock. So, to me, that's not a bad thing when you have flexibility like that.
Definitely, because John Cena, obviously, they can have him doing other stuff while Brock Lesnar feuds with the Authority. I mean,
even if John Cena's still in the picture. Like, at this point, like I said, shouldn't Lesnar be the most ticked off at Rollins? Like, yeah, he walked out with the title, but he got curb stomped after taking 4 AAs. If I'm Brock Lesnar, I'm ripping every door off that goddamn building.
Yeah, I agree. We just lost Joe, but yeah, I agree that that's why it was so stupid why they just left this up in the air. That Paul didn't come out. They didn't even mention it. They didn't mention Brock Lesnar or Paul at all, or the title match on who's going to be the #1 contender. They did not mention anything to do with Brock Lesnar. All they talked about was Seth. And I know this is weird coming from me because obviously I love Seth. But it really is weird to me that they did not talk about Brock and his title and about him. I mean, yeah, they did talk about Seth cashing in because John Cena talked about it. Obviously, was mad at him. But no Brock, no Paul. I mean, it makes no sense to me how they ended this, especially if he's not going to be here for this pay-per-view. It's just so stupid. It's ridiculous.
I mean, if I'm Brock, even if I had the night off, even if me and Sable are going down to Florida or Minnesota or whatever to go celebrate and drink a Coors Light and do whatever the hell with their free time. You know, if I'm looking at it from a characteristic point of view, you want to protect your character. The Brock Lesnar character, after being put on such a big pedestal, especially with his last 3 matches, destroying Big Show with that chair, beating The Undertaker, and then destroying John Cena. Like, I didn't have a problem with Cena having more offense than he did, but to get laid out with 4 FUs, essentially be dominated by Lesnar, and then get hit with a curb stomp, Lesnar can go at everybody, faces, heels. That's why they don't have to turn John Cena heel, because they can kind of play with this on the board. Lesnar, you know what I mean, he can go after the heels, but he can still go after Cena, almost like how Punk and Cena were for a while. Like, they weren't necessarily friends, but they were the 2 top, and occasionally they would fight as a tag team just because they were the 2 top baby faces. But as a rule, you saw Punk and Cena at odds. You know, that was a great rivalry during the last few years. You got to give it that. So, you know, I feel like fans you have your adult fans, or your UFC type fans, if you will, who are going to be into Brock. You have your entertainment type fans who are going to be into Cena. And then, you know, you got the heels. And to me, like I said, like my original thought after watching the pay-per-view and seeing what happened was, okay, we're going to get a fatal 4-way. Lesnar, you know what I mean? Or at least a triple threat. Lesnar, Seth Rollins, and John Cena, or with Dean Ambrose or Randy Orton, something, you know, they can go at the Authority here. And like I said, if I'm Lesnar, like I don't need the Authority to get involved in my shit. Not to mention try to turn on me and take my title. So if I'm Lesnar, I'm protecting my character, and I'm for sure not gonna go on vacation after I'm laid out with 4 FUs and a curb stomp. I'm representing myself the way the Beast Incarnate should represent himself. You're live on Wrestling Throwdown on YouTube.com. The one and only Haley Imes. I am Joe Passarelli. We're talking Monday Night Raw review. I think Haley might have got froze up real quick. But honestly, WWE Monday Night Raw, certainly an improvement over last week. I felt like 3 out of the last 4 weeks were just pitiable, deplorable outputs for Monday Night Raw, and I was not feeling them. I thought the season premiere, quote unquote, of Raw with the cage match with Wyatt and Jericho was really good. And ironically enough, we were talking about Bray Wyatt. I feel like
Sorry, Google Hangouts is driving me nuts right now. I'm about to throw it up against the wall.
Well, I was saying, Haley, before it disconnected us, it's funny, 3 out of the last four Raws were really pretty deplorable. I thought this week was an improvement. Certainly, the return of Dean Ambrose did help. Ironically enough, when you want to talk about, like, what was the best match over the past month on the Monday Night Raws, it was the man who we've talked about tonight, Bray Wyatt, the cage match with him and Jericho. I dare you to find a match in the past set of Monday Night Raws that was better than that.
Yeah,
Although I will say, the main event with Cena and Jericho, which I think when we all saw this was like, John Cena John Cena and Randy Orton, not Cena Jericho, John Cena and Randy Orton yet again. I think we were all kind of SMDH about that booking, but you know what? They actually had a good match, and we were talking about Ziggler. I felt like Orton and Cena managed to do different stuff that we hadn't seen in an Orton and Cena match before. Both throwing each other outside the ring. Randy Orton, instead of hitting the middle DDT, the top of the rope DDT, what Nigel McGuinness used to call the Tower of London back when he was Ring of Honor champion. So we saw some different things. I thought it was a lot less predictable than the Jericho-Orton match. To tell you the truth, I thought it was a much better match than the Jericho-Orton match, and that's saying something because I consider myself a diehard Jericho-holic, way more than Cena fan or Orton fan. But, and that's no disrespect to Jericho. I thought he had a fine showing. But I did think this match was good, and I actually got one more stat for you, Haley. I know I've had a lot of stats today. I got one more stat for you. Yesterday's pairing of Randy Orton and John Cena, did you know, was the 20th time, whether on pay-per-view, Raw, or SmackDown, the 20th time on television, obviously this doesn't count house shows, 20th time on television John Cena and Randy Orton have faced each other. With John Cena getting the win via DQ in this match, the stats now show John Cena winning 11 bouts, Randy Orton winning 7 and 2 draws. Not too shabby. Pretty fair, even record between the two of them.
Wow. I didn't even think that. I mean, I know they faced a lot, but I didn't think it was that much.
Yeah.
Because I know he had that whole feud with Triple H, too, and then, I don't know. That's crazy. Alrighty. I know Michael Miner's watching this right now, so I'm definitely going to say this match. I'm going to apologize about this match to him because I kind of argued with him a little bit yesterday about this. Adam Rose and the Bunny versus Heath Slater and Titus O'Neil. Yes. And obviously Adam Rose and the Bunny won. Now, this is what I'm going to say. You were half right and I was half right when it came to who was the Bunny. I looked this up. It was technically Sami Zayn because Sami Zayn has been the Bunny for the past 2 weeks. So you were technically right. But they said how they're going to turn this out to be. It's going to be Darren Young. So technically I was right about that too. They're going to do a whole storyline with the identity bunny, find the identity of the bunny, and it is Sami Zayn right now, but it's eventually, I guess, when they pull off the mask or whatever, it's going to be Darren Young. They're going to have it be Darren Young. So technically, we were both right in that whole scenario. So
what bothers me about it, I like it and I don't like it. What bothers me about it is just the suspension of disbelief aspect. You can clearly see that the bunny has Caucasian skin and is a bit taller. Darren Young isn't that tall and is clearly not Caucasian either. So there we go. And he's fast-paced, up-tempo, kicks, high spots. Sounds a lot like Sami Zayn to me. And oh, by the way, the internet's reporting it too. So yeah, Sami Zayn working it. But at the same time, I'm glad Sami isn't going to be the reveal, because I think that would hurt Sami Zayn if that's his first storyline on the main roster, that he's a rosebud, that he's a bunny. I think he's so much better than that. And I don't know what the best way to introduce Sami Zayn in the main roster is. Maybe it's the Royal Rumble. Who knows? But I certainly don't think him being attached to the bunny would help him. I think it would do more for guys like Justin Gabriel, Zack Ryder, as you mentioned, Darren Young, who could use something just to do, who are really not doing anything anymore. So it makes sense that Darren Young, to get revenge on Titus O'Neil, will get involved in this. But at the same time, I mean, like I said, at least it's a good, like, mystery angle. I always said I love the good whodunit angle or a good mystery angle. I always thought that was good because it gets the fans thinking and it gets the fans like, oh, who's this guy, or who's going to make this debut, or who's this vignette about? So obviously you're getting that with this bunny thing. It's hokey, it's corny, it's PG, but it's not the worst thing that they've done. It's quite frankly saved Adam Rose's career, this stupid bunny thing. Like, real talk. So Adam Rose should be thanking whoever ends up being the bunny, whether it's Sami right now, Justin Gabriel 2 weeks ago, Zack Ryder 2 months ago.
Yeah, see, it keeps switching, too. That's another thing. So I never really look at the skin color, because the last time I looked at it, it looked more tanner like Justin Gabriel and stuff like that. And then the week before, obviously, it looked Caucasian. So it's just like, because you can see it a little bit on the wrist. So it keeps changing who it is. But supposedly they're going to have Sami Zayn, I guess, finish it up or whatever, and then Darren Young. And I know you don't like Darren Young. I do.
I like Darren Young.
I'm more of a Titus O'Neil person. But I've always liked Darren Young. I always thought that, you know, he had potential, and I really liked him with the primetime players. You know, I don't know, I always thought he was a good wrestler. You know, I always thought that he needed more credit than what they were giving him. And that's kind of that's the thing with a lot of wrestlers, too. They always act like, they're so bad. And, you know, some of them actually have potential, and they can actually be a good mid-carder, you know, or something like that, or have, you know, the U.S. title, or be a good tag team, and they don't give them the opportunity to do that.
Yeah. Absolutely. I like Darren Young. Who said I never liked Darren Young? I was a huge fan of the...
I remember it was like a few weeks ago. You said you like made like a noise when you talked about him or something like that. I don't know. Maybe you were just talking about, I don't know, because you should mention the whole gay thing, how he was gay and everything like that. And you said something. I don't know. You said something.
I was frustrated because they had an opportunity to capitalize.
Yeah, that is true.
And I was talking about Michael Sam, and I'm like, when you have a guy on your roster and Darren Young who could be a spokesperson for the LGBT community, why would you outsource and go get Michael Sam when you had Darren Young on your roster? That was my, at least that's...
Yeah. Yeah, he's hurt right now. He had a ACL tear, didn't he? Yeah, but he should be back. It's been quite a while. He should be back.
Debuted on NXT when CM Punk was his pro, and CM Punk used to bully him around. And you know, part of the Nexus. I always thought he was a decent part of the Nexus, underrated part of the Nexus. I think he got hurt initially, and then he went.
Yeah, he's another one that might be a little bit injury prone too. And I mean, that's not like it's not a bad thing. I mean, I know accidents happen. You can't really, obviously, wrestling, you can't really,
contact sport.
Yeah, exactly. But Dolph Ziggler definitely can definitely avoid it and everything like that. It was funny because I was watching an interview. I don't know if I told you guys this before with Seth, and they asked him why he does all these crazy stuff. Like, isn't he worried about getting hurt? And he goes, no, because I do CrossFit and I don't do anything that I know I can't do. He says when I do these crazy ass moves, he's like, I know I'm gonna land on my feet. And he goes, I know I'm not going to, just, fall over or something like that. And he said that's what CrossFit helps him with. So, yeah, even though he's kind of a crazy high-risk flyer, too, he actually is prepared for it. He knows what he's doing, and he feels like he's safe. And he does a good job. He does always land on his feet. So.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's got a cat-like ability to do that. I've never quite put it in those words before, but now that you point it out, that's certainly true. I didn't know. I mean, it doesn't surprise me. He's part of CrossFit. I didn't know that.
Oh, he's a huge CrossFit. Seriously, he posts everything. He retweets everything. And, oh, my God, a whole bunch of CrossFit. He's into the energy bars, too, Quest bars. He's into everything. He's
like John
maniac.
when John Morrison was into the parkour or whatever, kind of similar deal, I guess. But I think Seth's, stock is higher than Morrison was on his brightest day. I will say that. And, Seth, I trust him as a high flyer. I trust him giving people the curb stomp, which can be a dangerous move, but I feel like him giving it to anybody, I trust. You know who I don't trust as a high flyer? And you're going to get a kick out of this. Adrian Neville.
Oh, Paul Chaser, why aren't you watching this right now?
Well, look, I like Adrian Neville. I don't dislike him. I do see some flashes of Dynamite Kid in him, Benoit in him, Guerrero in him. Maybe not Guerrero's personality, but just little flashes. But I'm telling you right now, the Red Arrow is one of those moves that one little slight botch, and there could be a broken neck. So, all I'm saying, it's a beautiful move. It's one of the most magnificent, poetic moves.
That is what makes him. That is the one thing that I like about him is his finishing move. That is what makes him.
But he may have to change it. It may be waiting to happen, and that's my concern for him. He is a good worker, but if he's relying just on that one move for to get him to the next plateau, what do you want to call him, Pac or Adrian Neville or whatever you want to call him. I just think it's a slippery slope, pardon the pun. I think that he, I heard Don Tony and Kevin Castle talking about it on their podcast, and I agree. I feel like he should try to find some other finishers that he can use, because if he relies on that too much, it's not. I feel like Seth doing a curb stomp, I trust him to protect the guy's neck every time, even though one slight slip with that, too, and you can crush a guy's jaw, crush a guy's neck. That's a dangerous move, too. But with that Red Arrow, I feel like it's almost more of a danger to himself than his opponents. But I just feel like with just the rotation and spin and just precision that's required to hit that move, it's beautiful. And when he hit it on Raw, you got to admit, it got a huge reaction, and it probably was a show-stealing moment when he did it on Raw a few weeks ago. But how consistent can he be with it? And that's my thing. Is he going to try to be like Jeff Hardy and do a high spot and jump off a ladder with it or something? I don't know. I just think it could be a disaster if he hits it the wrong way. And that's my biggest concern for him.
Yeah. He's got to work on quite a few stuff. And that's I think, a good reason why they're not bringing him up to the roster right now. And they're even talking about him not coming to the roster anytime soon. Is because he has a lot of work to do.
I think Sammy's more ready than him. Quite frankly, I'm calling up TJ. I mean, he's doing good work down there. You might as well see what you got in him, before you outright cut him. Again, I feel like
Justin Gabriel is what the tag team division needs right now.
Yeah, no, they're very good, and they're both former tag team champions in their own right. Kid with the Hart Dynasty, Justin Gabriel with Heath Slater, and
that was another good tag team too.
Underrated. Underrated. So I feel like that could be interesting. Again, a guy like Justin Gabriel's down there as well, been with the company for years. I feel like, I'm not saying guys like Kenta and Steen and Devitt are going to leapfrog Pac, I feel like they want, here I am calling him by his indie name, Adrian Neville. They want Neville to work with all those guys. Like I think that is good. You keep them in there for now, and now you have all these matches. You know, okay, with Tommy versus Neville, dream match. Dean versus Neville, and you can kind of like do what Paul Heyman talked about in the Paul Heyman DVD when he had Edge and Guerrero and Angle and like all those great technical wrestlers. He, you know, because when you think about it, you got, I mean, Sammy's still there. Just that photo that's been shared ad nauseum on Facebook with Kenta and Steen and Devitt. You can play with those matchups and get about a year just with those matchups alone. So there's no hurry to call up any of these guys, but I do feel like Zayn will get called up faster. And look at him. Technically, he's already on the main roster in the bunny suit. So
that's what's so funny, too. I was so upset when they chose Neville over Sami Zayn because Sami Zayn's a better talker. I think the fans are into him way more. And he's more ready in the ring, to tell you the truth. Sami Zayn had the full package. And that's why I think they made a terrible mistake, because now that he's been NXT champion, they're like, and he's also been two-time NXT tag team champion, and they're still like, I don't know what to do with them. And it's just like, well, that's because you pushed him too fast. I feel like you gave him the title too fast. I feel like they should have went with Sami Zayn instead.
Hey, at least they're not Chris Hero, right?
Okay, our favorite storyline of the evening, Nikki Bella. She talks about why she lost the match, and she blames her sister because she was negative, and she watched her interview and she said she was heartbroken after the interview, whatever, and she couldn't focus. And she tells Brie to come out, and Brie comes out, and Nikki Bella just starts talking about the Bella name. She wants Brie to give it up, and Brie says, I'm not giving it up, so blah, blah, blah. And Nikki then insults Daniel Bryan, and obviously Brie gets very upset about that. She slaps her, and she tries to put her in the yes lock. Oh my god, the yes lock. I really like Brie, and I want to say good things about her, but it's just like this yes lock. Daniel Bryan really, 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 really needs to work with her on this. Like, seriously, if she's really gonna start doing this move, he really needs to work with her on this, because this is a disaster. She can't even. Oh my god, it's just
turning into a no lock real quick, isn't it?
God, she can't even. And I like Brie a lot. I do. I'm a fan of Brie, but it's just that yes lock was atrocious. It was bad, very bad.
I've been analyzing.
I could have put that in better than she could.
I agree. I absolutely think you could have executed that move. All right, we are back, I believe, right? Are we back?
Yeah.
Right. Well, here's my thing. I've been analyzing Nikki and Brie Bella a lot. I've actually been talking to Kayla a lot about it too. She's been into the storyline, and she watches Total Divas with me too. She kind of gets a gauge for the Brie. I feel like, there hasn't been many brother, sister feuds. I'm actually gonna, on my YouTube channel, rank some of my top sibling feuds of all time. Look for that coming up within the next 24 or 48 hours. But I feel like with this feud, I sympathize more with Nikki. And I'm not saying I believe the outlandish thing she said in the Growing Up Bella segments a few weeks ago. However, if you watch Total Divas, doesn't Brie come
off as a bitch. She really does.
Condescending person, and I love Bryan, and I'm glad that Bryan's happy with her. I'm not saying she's a bad person, but she's sitting there and trying to control, everything from Nikki Bella's her eggs to all this other stuff. It's can the girl have her own personality? And it's funny because you know, whether you want to think Total Divas is a work or shoot or not is a debate for another day. But what they're portraying is Nikki Bella has this real estate gimmick thing, so she should be okay if she were to have to leave wrestling because she's doing the real estate, which is good. And I think actually that sends a good message to everybody out there. It's like, you know, don't just rely on wrestling and worry about the next step too. That's what's helped guys like Jericho and other guys stay relevant, is that they've found other things. So I think that was actually cool. And I don't know, it's just like, you think Nikki's channeling her true feelings here, and it's like it's almost more natural for Nikki to speak on this, because I think there is some element of truth in what Nikki's feeling. And I think in all great rivalries, the Matt Edge Lita thing will always come to mind here. When there's an element of realism to it, and that suspension of disbelief gets peeled back just a little bit, and this makes it that much juicier and better. Unfortunately, with this, it's not the case, because Brie Bella's reactions are just unbelievable. And, like, I feel like I really feel like Nikki's trying to use this as her opportunity to show that she belongs. And as much as people can say Brie Bella's a smoother worker than Nikki, Brie Bella had a good match with Natalya, had a good match with Stephanie, all true. However, I feel like Nikki stands out more. Nikki, at this point, with probably the exception of Stephanie McMahon, is the strongest diva on the roster. Because Natty's more of like a technical wrestler, not a powerhouse. You know, Nicole, she's kind of got some power to her game. So, you know, without a person like Karma or Chyna or Beth Phoenix or someone who's a real powerhouse diva on the roster, I feel like she can use that to her advantage. And again, she's comfortable on the mic. But with Brie, I don't know, go to an acting class, go to an improv class. I mean, Brian is exactly a great promo cutter, but Brian connects with the audience. He's a bad actor. We learned that in the Kane storyline. Oh, the red wire connects with the blue wire. Let's go, Brie! Ah! Like, not a good actor, but obviously a tremendous sports entertainer, and he's done a lot with a one-word catchphrase and a beard. Certainly done a lot with a one-word catchphrase and a beard. So, I don't know. It's just, there's something that's just not natural at Brie Bella, and I feel like maybe she's uncomfortable with where this storyline is taken, and certainly the died in the womb and other things have been just ridiculous and unnecessary to the storyline. It's like when Matt and Jeff Hardy had their storyline, and they said that Jeff Hardy legitimately had a house fire where his house burnt down and his dog died legitimately, and then they tried to make a storyline saying that Matt burned down the house. It's like, some things are a little bit too unbelievable, even for the WWE. Matt burned down his own brother's house. Fuck you. No. I'm just not believing that. So maybe, like, Nikki's just come off too strong, but I feel like it's kind of killed off Brie. A few months ago, Brie was arguably the most momentous diva, maybe besides Paige and AJ, feuding with Stephanie. You know, obviously that was a one-shot deal, and now, like, she's not even in matches, and she's, like, okay with it. She's sitting there like, oh, I'm okay because I get to speak in the back for 60 seconds on how Nikki's a bitch. When, in all actuality, I'm kind of feeling what Nikki's saying half the time. So, Brie Bella, I'm sure is a great person, good, you know, cares about the earth, and very selfless person, but I wouldn't want to be your brother or sister. I'll tell you that much. She seems like that sibling that wants to control everything. And let me tell you something. I'm not saying everybody, but there's a lot of people who have that sibling out there that can relate. And sometimes people have to make their own mistakes to get back up. And I think Nikki Bella is one of those people where, you know, she makes mistakes. Her relationship with John Cena isn't perfect, and he walks on her and this and that. Where Brie Bella wants to be the relationship police with her. It's like, girl, let her make her own mistakes. Girl, bye!
Pulling the Cameron.
Yeah. Girl, bye.
Oh. Anyways, Nikki faced AJ, and Paige was on commentary, and it was funny because Paige changed her whole character. I guess the skipping's gone. I liked the skipping.
I like the skipping. I like the commentary from Paige. I like teasing the character up. They're still teasing the lesbian angle though, because she, like AJ on commentary last week, was like, "Oh, I wanna pin her down. I wanna pin her to the mat." So they're both using these little provocative little catchphrases, and it's
Yeah.
going to end up some kind of kiss or something.
She said she wasn't her friend anymore either, and that she's crazy, and that she'll say it to her face. I thought that was pretty funny. And Nikki throws AJ into Paige, and obviously AJ wins, and Nikki taps. Now, you guys already know my feelings on the whole AJ winning. Bad mistake right there. Unless they actually really think that she's gonna stay. But it's just like she's already the longest reigning Divas champion, and she just had, and that was like just last year, and it's just like you're gonna let her, get it 2 other times, like right after another. It's just like Paige was fine. Why didn't you just keep the damn title on Paige? I don't understand. And this is another reason why I think they just to keep the feud continuing, because if she didn't, then AJ would have said, "Oh, I got beat twice by Paige. Oh, I should be done." But it's just like, and it's just like, why didn't they just have Paige pin Nikki? Oh, because then Nikki couldn't do this whole storyline about how oh, I lost because my sister was mean and everything. She couldn't use that. Is that what that whole thing was about? It's just like, oh, the whole thing was stupid though. I'm not a fan of AJ winning. It just doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. It's just to keep the feud continuing, just like the Dolph and Miz thing. It's just gonna keep flip-flopping and flip-flopping, and I'm sure Paige is gonna win it back in the next month or 2 anyway. So I don't see AJ having it for very long at all.
No, Paige at a 3-time champion and just her first year in the company. I mean, in one respect, you could say, all right, this feud is them look like Lita and Trish in the sense of like they're here and you and Chris were talking about this, that they're here and everybody else is here. Yeah, Nikki Bella getting shots, but it would be nice to see a little bit of freshness. At this point, the feud has essentially run its course. I feel like the only reason why they're continuing to have them feud is to do this lesbian storyline to piss off CM Punk. And if anybody thinks it's for any other reason, I'm telling you it's not. It's to piss off CM Punk because they are sick of his mouth. They are sick of him being the biggest asshole in wrestling, bad-mouthing the company, bad-mouthing the video game, and I think this is their way to get back at him. And I don't think he's the kind of guy who's going to like having his wife making out with other girls on television. He doesn't strike me as that type of individual. So I feel like this whole thing, no matter where the title goes, is set up specifically for this Mickie James Trish payoff, if you will. Now, to agree with you and Dreamer's points, Duo Dreamer's points earlier, as I was watching the Night of Champions review show you guys did yesterday, I agree that it would help the division, to build some fresh contenders, have Paige have the run. I know it would be like what would you do to AJ at that point, and that is kind of confuzzling. I would love to see AJ and Stephanie, but that's another discussion for another day, and I feel like that could be a WrestleMania match, but we'll see. Another discussion for another day. But, yeah, I actually came up with 3 divas, and I had commented on the YouTube that I would put as potential contenders to ideally Paige, because I think we would all like to see Paige kind of have a solidified run at this point. And I would say Naomi is one of them. I know you had mentioned Naomi as well as Duo Dreamer, and as well as Natalya. She submitted Paige when she was the champion clean on Raw and never even got a title shot. And Summer Rae, just because I think Summer Rae is talented in the ring and her character, and her and Paige had a great feud in NXT, so they clearly have chemistry. So those 3 individuals, I think, would make sense. It'd make a lot more sense than what Summer's doing now, put it that way. So I would try to mix it up, build up the contenders, because what's the point of having all these girls where we're just going to have Cameron and Naomi fight for months? You're going to have Cameron drag Naomi down to the depths of main event and superstars. I mean, come on now.
So ridiculous. Alrighty. Main event. Randy Orton versus John Cena. And of course, Seth and Cameron at ringside. And It was a DQ because Seth Rollins obviously attacked John Cena, and then they obviously brought him by ringside and they said, "Oh, take off, the cover of the box to bring out the cylinder blocks." And when they pulled it off, obviously Dean Ambrose pops out and starts going nuts and attacking Seth and pretty much everyone. And so then John Cena and Dean get back in the ring. Seth hightails it all the way up into the audience, and he, says, it goes like this: I'm smart, I'm not doing this anymore right now, and everything like that. And that was pretty much that, and Dean and John Cena were in the ring, and John Cena just smiled at Dean, and I don't know. That's another reason why I think that this is going to be a tag team match, is because they technically helped each other last night. I mean, they're not going to be the best friends, obviously, but... And then you got the Authority. I mean, this is if... It all depends on Brock Lesnar at this point, what they're going to do with the whole main event for the Hell in a Cell. But, I don't know if they're going to put all these guys into one match together, too. I mean, they're going to probably have maybe another rematch for the Divas. This actually could be good, though, because then maybe they can have all the titles on the line again, which should be what should happen every single pay-per-view. I know that's what that would happen if I was in charge. I would definitely make every single title be defended every single pay-per-view. That's stupid that they don't do that, so that's what I would do, because obviously Miz and Dolph are going to fight again, probably next pay-per-view, and Divas is going to be defended, and probably tag team's probably going to. Sheamus and Cesaro, that's a little bit iffy, and especially if, they do the whole Bray Wyatt thing too. Whenever, if he does it with Intercontinental or US, it's kind of up in the air too. That's a little iffy too. Kind of just depends on what WWE wants to do. I mean, everything's pretty much up in the air right now, and they can do pretty much whatever they want. And it depends on Brock Lesnar's schedule too, if whatever he wants to do. I mean, he's pretty much his own man right now, I guess, and he pretty much makes the rules. They're just letting him do whatever he wants, and it just is ridiculous. But
just like the Monday Night Football Rusev Mark Henry main event thing that last week, it's like the way they're just giving in to any demand Lesnar has. Like, I know I kind of just bashed CM Punk, but to defend him for a minute, I mean, like, you're going to let one guy go, but then give these kind of amenities to a part-time guy. It's crazy. I don't know if I'd have titles be on the line every single pay-per-view, like you said, but at least the World Heavyweight Championship on the line every single pay-per-view, or have a number one contenders match and have the champion there on commentary to hype it. At least have the champion there. So, I don't know. I spoke about my frustration with Lesnar at the beginning of this podcast. Certainly frustrating. I do feel like, just looking at this main event, I almost wish that John would have just stayed down and let Dean clean house, because I think that hurt the pop that Dean was getting when Cena got back in the ring, because I think people got confused at that point, because people were, like, confused who to cheer for, you know what I mean? Like, there was some chance, there was some Cena chance, where before Cena got back up, they were really popping for Dean like crazy when he popped out the box, which was the worst kept secret ever, but still an awesome moment. Again, where we said sometimes predictable isn't a bad thing. A blind squirrel could see that coming, but it was still awesome. And the execution was great. He comes out, he takes out all three, he does the crossbody on the three of them on the outside. He didn't need John Cena. He should have hit the dirty deeds on Kane and Orton, and Seth ran. And John Cena stumbles in the ring at the end, like selling, like, because the fact that you just took a curb stomp and an RKO, selling Punk. Ugh, this is the things that bother me about John Cena. Is no selling. You just got hit with 2 finishers. Brock got hit with 5 finishers, and he did the right thing. He didn't get up until after the whole thing was over, and he just kind of scurried away. I feel like John Cena should have just stayed down. I do. I feel like
He's Superman. He's not going to stay down.
Super Cena has to get up at all costs, has to be involved. God forbid Dean Ambrose, I look back at things in WWSCWD, what would Stone Cold Steve Austin do? And Stone Cold Steve Austin would have stunned everybody. Face, heel, would have stunned everybody. So
Yeah,
at this,
probably.
why can't Dean Ambrose do that? And maybe, that's an option that can go. That's why I'm not convinced Cena and Ambrose are going to be a tag team, and I really hate that idea. I'd rather see R. Ziggler and Dolph Ziggler be the tag team champions for 25 straight years than...
Oh, it's funny. Funny. But Raw was pretty good. It was definitely better than last week's. The main event was pretty good. Had us thinking about what's going to happen, and obviously with the whole Dean and John Cena thing, if they are going to be a tag team, or if Dean's obviously going to turn on John Cena. Because, he can still be a face. I mean, Stone Cold Steve Austin did that. He was a face, and he didn't have any friends, It's not like, but that was also the Attitude Era. This is PG era. So, there's a difference. The children are watching.
Funny thing is, some of the best stuff they did was like with Mick Foley when he was trying to befriend Steve Austin, and Austin kept stunning him, and that was almost PG-ish in a way, because like Mick was coming off all genteel and all like, oh, let me be your friend, Steve Austin. Steve Austin kept stunning him. Of course, they were trying to have Austin.
I'm getting so sick of this thing. I'm so glad we're almost done, because I'm just done.
Google Hangouts sees a Stone Cold Stunner.
I'm seriously gonna look up something if anybody else has had problems with this, because I just started happening when yesterday with me and Chris. It just keeps saying lost connection, but yet I'm looking at my connection, and I'm on another website too right now, and it's fine. It's not messing up, so it's obviously something to do with Google Plus.
Yeah, that's all I got. Again, I would have had Dean be that renegade and not accept Cena's help, but that's just me. That's how I would have done it.
Yeah.
Everybody has to be friends now.
Okay, guys. Well, that's pretty much that. Sorry about all the technical difficulties. I'm gonna do some research and look that up and see if I can fix it for the next show. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up button. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter. And don't forget to join our Facebook group. I'll put all the links in the description. And don't forget to subscribe to Joe. And Joe, do you have any shows you want to talk about coming up?
Definitely subscribe to the Wrestling Throwdown and to the Joe Passarelli channel. I am planning on putting up a few videos on my channel within the next 24 hours. One on the passing of former Tennessee Titans kicker Rod Baronis in a car accident over the weekend. I got the inside story on that and my opinions on that. Another one, another death in the world of wrestling, maybe not a famous name, the son of Paul Bear, Michael Moody, only 34 years old, passing away. My thoughts.
I didn't even hear about that.
Family.
I can't believe that. Wow.
Certainly tragic. Where, the poor Daniel Moody, who's the other brother, lost his brother and his father in the same week, so pretty tough.
That's sad.
Am I back? All right. Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. So I'll have a video on my thoughts on that and my thoughts on how WWE.com talked about Michael Moody's death, but did not talk about another wrestler's death who recently passed away. And I'll leave that as the teaser and let you tune into the Joe Passarelli show to see what I'm talking about there.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I think certainly something that was a big topic last week. And again, I'm also going to have my thoughts. We talked about it a little bit on the show, but my thoughts on what were some of the greatest true sibling rivalries in history. We'll talk about the Hardys, the Harts, the McMahons. Maybe we'll throw in the Guerreros, even though they were uncle and nephew. But we'll talk about some family feuds, some top family feuds, the Steiner brothers, Harlem Heat. We'll talk about it all on the Joe Passarelli Show. And live this Thursday, you want to tune into the Strike Zone, 8 to 10 p.m. And the word on the street is the hybrid Tyler Sexton, who will be competing at Drumsticks and Dropkicks in Rhode Island, October 4th. Tickets just $10. He will be performing there live. He is a notable indie performer. He was in TNA Gut Check, and he is an outstanding performer. Folks, if you don't know who he is, look him up on YouTube. Tyler Sexton, the man known for Sexton Violence. Going to have an interview with him this Thursday on the Strike Zone, so check that out, folks. Joey Dice sitting down with the one and only Tyler Sexton, and some surprises, possible ticket giveaways as well to the wrestling show. So all kinds of good stuff. I also want to personally thank Duo Dreamer. Been so awesome how he's been more and more active with the Wrestling Throwdown Facebook page, getting to know Haley more. Obviously, him and myself have kind of developed a rapport, and really proud to have him as part of the Wrestling Throwdown team, and you did a great job with the review show yesterday, and look forward to working with you more, and both personally and with the two of us, and you know, big ups, playa. Appreciate it.
Definitely, Chris. Thank you so much for yesterday. You were awesome, and I love doing the show with you. Okay,
hey,
guys.
It's no revelation.
I will see you in the next one. Bye.